Newsbrief. Rocket League is the latest game to be added into the PlayStation Crossplay Beta program, an addition that comes after years of Sony's reluctance to offer the feature to multiplayer games. Players still have the option to toggle cross-platform play on or off from Rocket League's gameplay settings, but the feature is flipped on by default. Psyonix's rocket-powered spin-on soccer is just one of several games that have offered limited cross-platform playing for some time, in large part due to the fact that Sony was reluctant to let players on the PlayStation 4 team up with a match against those on competing consoles. The company changed its tone recently and openly admitted that it took a little too long to make that decision, first allowing Epic Games, Fortnite, to let its PlayStation 4 players compete and team up with friends on X1 and Nintendo Switch, before slowly opening the feature up to other developers. Unity has blocked the use of real-time multiplayer platform spatulas, leaving many developers who rely on the service in a state of limbo. A change to the Unity terms of service means all existing spatulas titles, including production games and those still in development, are now in breach of the company's license terms. Spatula's creator Improbable broke the news in a blog post and explained Unity has also revoked its ability to continue working with the engine for operating the newly changed terms of service in an unspecified way. That means the company will no longer be able to fully support Unity developers, as to MEOF whom have been forced to shut down the servers of their Spatulas projects. Although Improbable believes the unfortunate and counterproductive action to be a simple error in judgment, a coordination failure on Unity's part, the company is worried by the fact the change occurred during an open commercial negotiation with the engine maker. Overnight, this is an action by Unity that has immediately done harm to projects across the industry, including those of extremely vulnerable and small-scale developers, and damaged major projects in development over many years, wrote Improbable. Games that have been funded based on the promise of Spatulas to deliver next-generation multiplayer are now endangered due to their choice of game engine. Live games are now in legal limbo. All customers who entered into a relationship with Ascend Unity previously did so on the good faith understanding that the terms they signed up to, sometimes years ago, would allow them to be successful and not carry additional charges. Improbable is now urgently seeking a solution to the situation, and says it will do everything in its power to solve the issue in good faith with Unity, with the ideal outcome being a reversal of the terms change. In the meantime, the company has pledged to help developers using Spatulas with Unity finish, release, and operate their games, and is even setting up an emergency fund for partners who, now, get thrown into the financial mire. Improbable will also be fully open-sourcing the Spatulas game development kit for Unity under the MIT license, in the hope it might assist individual customers in some way. Those interested can find out more about the dispute over on the Improbable blog. The Gamasutra job board is the most diverse, active and established board of its kind for the video game industry. Here is just one of the many positions being advertised right now. Location: Berlin, Germany. Are you passionate about designing killer mechanics, amazing combat features, and delivering exciting gameplay? And we want to hear from you. Toadman Interactive Berlin is seeking a mid-to-senior game designer to join us in defining and building our next hit game for X, PlayStation, and PC. You will be joining a highly talented and diverse team of developers right at the start of our new project. As a key driving force behind game design in the studio, you will be expected to be a creative problem solver, work closely with other departments, own the game's gameplay and balancing, and ultimately help drive the project's vision from concept to release. This exciting opportunity to work with a close-knit, creative and friendly team is ideal for an experienced designer looking to move into a senior role and join a rapidly growing company. Responsibilities, knowledge, experience, your application. All application must include a portfolio in the form of a website, PDF, a video. Interested? Apply now. Whether you are just starting out, looking for something new, or just seeing what's out there, the Gamasutra job board is the place where game developers move ahead in their careers. Gamasutra's job board is the most diverse, most active, and most established board of its kind in the video game industry, serving companies of all sizes, from indie to AAA. Looking for a new job? Get started here. Are you a recruiter looking for talent? Post jobs here. Chris Graft, at Chris Graft, is editor-in-chief. Gamasutra. Hey, it's another on your top games list. I approach these things like a mixtape that's meant to highlight games that are excellent, but also that give some kind of insight into my own tastes, with the hope that other people might find something they do enjoy. I will be honest, I do not look forward to doing this, because they do not come easy. I could tell you right away which games I enjoyed this year. But for me to cogently explain why that saps the last ounces of brain power I have left, after an entire year of following the game industry, every year in performing this thought exercise, I look back at the list I make, and every year without fail, a theme or two subconsciously arises. This year I gravitated toward two kinds of games. Thank you, dear readers, for reading and writing on Gamasutra. Here are the games that brought hope and joy during what felt like a very long year. List is in alphabetical order. When Celeste first came out this year, I played it for maybe a half hour, and then stopped. I just was not in the mood for yet another hard-as-hell platformer. It was not until I picked it back up at the end of the year, when I completely fell in love with it, and appreciated what it was doing. Yes, the game is difficult, but the way the story addresses that difficulty and emboldens the player to keep climbing is absolutely brilliant. Celeste shows us that we can be our own worst enemy, but that enemy is still an innate part of who we are, and having a friend or to help you realize that along the way never hurts. Mechanically, it's a simple concept for a player to understand. Jump, dash, and grab. The game masterfully introduces players to the traversal mechanics, then sprinkles in new level design elements where players have to use those basic skills in new ways. It all just feels perfect. Something about Forza Horizon 4 took me back to when I would get excited about racing games, even though it's obviously more advanced than the arcade racers that I obsessed over back in the 90s. Forza Horizon 4 was able to capture the sheer joy I experienced back then. It was not just the weekly change of seasons that were introduced this year or the new online features, or the fact that the graphics are good enough to make you weep. The game's main job is a driving feel that's the best this side of the original Sega Rally, or at least how I remember that game feeling. A feel that I can only describe as fast and buttery. Forza Horizon 4 is the culmination of years of fine-tuning. In that regard, this is a racing game made by people who understand what makes a realistic racing simulator gratifying, and what makes an arcade racer just fun. In equal measure, Frostpunk is what happens when you take the human condition, turn it into metrics and variables, and plug those into a system meant to test your own personal values. Many games, narratives tell the player about tough decisions and insurmountable odds. Frostpunk instead places the weight of this narrative devices on the shoulders of the player, providing a sense of gravitas and purpose. Unlike any game I have played, it all feels, in a literal sense, meaningful. The mechanical approach to this kind of storytelling makes Frostpunk that much more interesting. Theorists think the idea that softer mechanics are a better fit for narrative-focused games, while harder mechanics in system-heavy games like F4OS DPU and KA are less equipped to tell a story with as great of impact. Frostpunk masterfully disproves that notion, and shows a less traveled path that game designers should closely examine. Into the Breach is difficult, and wants to end you, but the game systems are so readable and transparent